I'll just do a brief intro. Hopefully everybody can hear me and see me fine. Like yesterday, I would love to be in a interactive presentation, so feel free to comment or ask questions. I'm looking at the chat while I'm talking to you. Today's talk is called "Companies Without Designers Are Building a Catastrophe." Hopefully you will enjoy, and yeah, let me just go briefly through this. Fonts were chosen by developer, so I just want to give this a little bit intro for what's next. Okay, I introduced myself yesterday, so if we have anybody who wasn't here yesterday, I'm a web designer, which is obvious, and feel free to reach out to me on my social networks, tweet to me. I got some really great feedback yesterday. Everybody was amazing, and I'm looking forward to see what you have to say today. Yes, I'm gonna, somebody told me that my website is fairly outdated. It is, and I promise I'm gonna be updating that fairly soon. Yesterday, I promised a joke, so I will say one at the end of the presentation. So I found one that is not, that is safe for work and is safe for office environment. So I'm going to do that and share with you at the end if you remain. And why am I doing this talk? So I come from Croatia. I grew up during the war. I come from a relatively poor family. We didn't have a lot, and my parents sacrificed a lot for me, and I'm very grateful for that. And I never liked wasting money. So one of the reasons that I do what I do today is because I want to save my clients and companies I work with. I want to save them money by implementing UX and implementing some of the design principles into product development. This talk will not be another lean UX talk. So I will briefly go through some of these stuff that everybody here knows. This is a UX conference, so I'm fairly sure everybody's very familiar with everything that we talk about here. So there's no point of doing this. So it's not about lean UX, and it's not a transparent PNG, as I got this off of Google Images. So everybody knows what a lean startup methodology is. It's been very popular in the last more than a couple of years now, and we are not going to talk about this, but you know how the process works, how the process looks like. I think everybody who ever worked in UX knows what is the lean startup. And I believe it's missing a key component. The key component that is missing is something that we call ideation pivot, and we do a leap of faith when we are building a product. This talk originally was geared towards everybody who's not a designer, so we can basically educate them and tell them what is the value of design and what is the value of UX and what is the value of having a customer experience function when you're building a product. And why I'm giving this talk today is because hopefully I can help you be the champions of what we are doing, and you can help companies realize what is the ROI, that was like a question that was asked earlier. What is the ROI of design, and why should they implement it into their products? So there is no more just get it built culture in big companies. I watched the previous talks today. They were amazing. I love the talk about tech debt. And this is something that I talk about as well, how lack of design and design function when building a product will incur a lot of tech debt in the future. And I want to talk about a case study that I did with one of my previous clients, where they had 0 designers in a company while building software, and it incurred a lot of tech debt, and they were wasting a lot of money by having product that implemented 0 design thinking. So to just set a stage a little bit for this, the company is a very big company that works in advertising space, and they build a CMS of sorts for managing ads, advertisements, and in a large volumes. And I spent a day with people who are working in their working and using their software for managing those ads. So these are almost 50 people that are on daily basis using this software for a company that makes billions of pounds of profit per year. So the case study is losing a fuck ton of money on a dumb oversight. I spend a day with 47 people in the on working on a product that is this CMS thing, and it works like this. Let's say that you are McDonald's and you want to advertise a new hamburger, and instead of and you would send in 100 of different variations of a single ad, because every screen that you are showing your ad when advertising outdoors is almost the same, but they are a little bit different. So you need to supply basically the same ad, but in a slightly different variation of size and ratio. And then for every copy, you need to do the same. So if you have one ad that has 4 different copy texts on it, you will need to that's already like 4 different ads for 10 different screens. That's already 40. And you're advertising 4 different products, you're already at 160 different images. And this product, for example, didn't have a delete all function. So let's say that you're in the middle of a campaign, you want to swap out the ads. There's no option to select all and then delete, which is sounds very obvious to have, but they didn't have it. So basically what you need to do is you need to go in, open every single image, choose delete, and then confirm, and then do that 160 times for a certain campaign. That's only one, and these people are managing hundreds per day. So on average, these people would lose between half an hour and an hour per day on this menial task of just deleting images, which in turn, because they were paid around 30 pounds per hour, in turn, that was over 28,000 pounds per month for these people for just one single function, which in totals a year of over 300,000 pounds of wasting money on doing one simple thing that could have been prevented if somebody designed a product before it was actually built. And this is how Agile looks like. I'm sure everybody's familiar of how this looks like. In the original concept of Agile, there's no clear role defined for any UX or UI, right? So what about design? Why is there no design function? Because when people who are building software in the small like startups, they are very quick in what they are building, and you can do things quickly, pull them out, test it, see what customers want, and then have it back. But as the company grows, they grew the same process, but they never introduced design. So they come to a place where basically they were building software without any design thinking, and just build stuff that people are not using or not using correctly or didn't know how to use. One of the things that I learned when working with this client is they had this is a massive software. I'm talking only about one little piece of it, but they didn't have any sorts of onboarding for a new user or any sort of documentation on anything. So I asked them, like, why do we, since this is a so complicated software, why are we either need to make it more simple and easier to use, or we need to build a really good manual, and that's a bad way to go. And they said, no, we already have 5 people working on it full time for past 6 months building a manual. And I was just like, no, you don't need to build a manual with 5 people for 5 months. You need to spend that money and time into making software more easy to use. So under this concept, we have developers who are building UI, and without understanding the user needs, it results in inferior user experience. And I want to say this clearly, developers are never to blame. I love working with developers. Developers are amazing at what they do, but they are not experts in user experience. They are not experts in research. They are not experts in validating whatever they're building. They're experts in building the software for the most part. We have some unicorns out there, but we all know there are few and in between. So nothing works as planned, everything works as designed. There is no product that is not designed. Everything is designed. Only a few things are designed well, and everything else is designed poorly. So we wanna help developers be really good at what they do. And what we want to do is, as a designers, we want to help them to build exactly what we know that user needs, so they can build it only once. In that way, we are saving developers time, which in turn saves a lot of money for the company. So imagine that we have a project that we want to build and this new feature for our product, it is the volume control app, and we need the best volume slider. And if we don't have a designer on board and we leave the project only to the developers and people in marketing without any design thinking happening before we actually start building a project, we would get something like this. We would get the best volume slider that you can subscribe to, and then you can get like unlimited everything, or you can just volume up or something like that. So, okay, we say, okay, we don't want this. We want a little bit more something advanced. We want advanced volume control. And you come back to your team of developers and you tell them, like, build us an advanced volume control for our users. It is really great to use. And they will come up with something like this. This is an advanced volume control. You can choose exact volume that you want, or you can mute it. Okay, cool, thank you. But can you make it a little bit more user-friendly? And they can think about it, and they could come up with something like this. It's user-friendly. You just make the noise light as you want, and this will be your setting. Okay, great, it works, thank you, but it's not fun. Marketing gets involved. It's not fun. Can we get something more fun? Sure, of course. Let's have a volume slider that is fun. Maybe users can play. Just keep shipping, and we'll figure out what users want, right? No, let's not do that. Let's not just keep shipping until we see what user actually wants. Let's test before. So we need to all be working together. We need to combine customer experience with Lean UX and with Agile, and build based on and build on validating with the users. And I'm sure everybody's seen this graphic. And we are operating in the part on the left. We are operating in concepts and experimenting, and we want to know, and we want to test the hypothesis before we actually start building it. And once we build, we want to get our feedback, and we want to get new ideas, test again, and start again. So we see here that that Agile is just a small little part of the entire process. One thing that I actually had a privilege of seeing firsthand is one of the C-suite people in the company, without them having a designer, built a quick wireframe in Microsoft PowerPoint, and just to explain to developers what they are trying to build. So this guy is not a designer. He knows he's not a designer. He said he's not a designer. He just wanted to convey his idea in something that would be similar. This PowerPoint presentation was then shipped to a development company in India, and they build out a product that looks like PowerPoint presentation that barely works and barely functions as a problem they wanted to solve. So we say that customer experience is the entire process that user goes through. It's not just UI and what they see on the device. And this is what we as designers need to make sure everyone else is clear on. I made a mistake of thinking people in the company knew what UX and what is the difference between UX and UI. And this was a fairly big company. So when I was talking about UX this and UI that and customer journey, everybody was just nodding their heads. And then I was approached by one of the senior management who told me, like, these people have no idea what you're talking about. They just don't want to come off stupid. And I made a wrong presumption that because they are in this big company and working on these positions, they would be knowledgeable to some extent. So what I actually did in the company, I organized like a one-day workshop. I call it UX Bootcamp, and it's basically geared towards people who are everything but designers in the company. And I would run them through what UX is, how does it work, how do we work as designers, how do we work with ideas, how do we test with users, and then give them a couple of simple tests just so they can have their fingers in it, so they can kind of understand how it works, and then they will understand the value. And this is proven as a big benefit, because now that when we were in a meeting, then they would say, oh, did you think about this or that? They kind of knew the concept, and they when I was not present or any designer, they could say, hey, did you run this by design? Have you thought about this? How about ask Tom, and maybe he can tell you what it is. So people started referring developers and campaign managers, other people, back to the design department. So we can say, okay, this works. And then slowly started to include design function in their process. So building an MVP that you can test end-to-end is something that I believe is better than just building an MVP that just kind of works and tested. And there's a difference between MVP and something that I like to call MLP. So let's say that we want to build a cake, and before we commit to a full cake, we want to test the idea first, right? So there's a difference between MVP, and calling something MVP that is not working and not solving a problem is not an MVP. So I worked with a company that was building an app, and they were testing this app, basically printed out a bunch of papers and shoving that in front of people's faces to see would they use this app just shuffling through paper. That just doesn't work. So let's say we want to build a cake. You wouldn't ship this as your MVP. If you say, we build this as an MVP, can you try our cake? What will users say? They will say that they do not love cake, right? So there's a difference between MVP and MLP. I call MLP is minimal lovable product, something that is smaller, simpler version of what you are trying to build, but actually works and solves at least one problem. So this would be an MLP of the cake. So let's build this, and then it will cost much less than the entire product. It will be easier to build, and we can see with the users if this is something that they like. When they say yes, then we can commit to actually building their product. And it was funny for me to spend a day with people and see how they use our product. And then I was asking them a lot of questions. And they told me there's these questions where nobody asked them ever. People were just shipping the product for them to use, and they were spending hours and hours, losing hours of time on this stuff. And they felt like nobody told them that they can actually report back, they can send in feedback. They were just saying, when they asked them, does it work? Everybody said, yes, it works. And because they didn't know that it can work and perform in a different way. So when I came in and started asking questions, they were just blown away that nobody asked them these questions, and they are the people who are actually using the software. It was just mind-blowing. So for the future of UX in UI, there are some things that are going to be happening, and we're already seeing them happening. I'm sure that you're all familiar with refactoring UI and all of this stuff, and we are going in a future that we are moving to cloud software. I know a lot of people are using Figma, basically a cloud-based, online-based tool. I'm a more of an old school guy. I use something that I can use offline, that I can work on when I'm traveling. But as you know, Google Docs has changed how we collaborate. It's going to happen with design files, and we're going to streamline our workflow. And going in the future, rather than focusing on the artifacts and prototypes, we will just focus on the entire thing as a whole, building out libraries of UI, building out design systems. That I'm not here to talk about design systems today. I know that you all know the value of building a design library, but what we want to do is what can we do as designers? And if you're not a designer and you're in a company, advocate for designers. Please be the person that tells everybody that you need designers in a team. If you're a designer and you have any say in how something gets built, make sure that you are able to talk about end-to-end. Do not let companies train people who are not designers with a 3-day boot camp in UX thinking to do and try to substitute what designers do. If somebody's a developer, they shouldn't be trained for a weekend to substitute something. Just, oh, designers only build wireframes. We can send somebody for a 2-day weekend workshop to learn how to do wireframes. That is not true. I'm not a developer. I try to be a developer, but believe me, you do not want me to try to write some Python code just because I did a 1 weekend workshops. Like, this is me 25 years ago with my first PC in my Windows 95. And since then, I spent 25 years being behind a screen, with a computer screen on a mobile screen. And the first thing I started, when I started my first computer, I opened up MS Paint. And before that, I was even painting with plotting in lines of BASIC. I started BASIC. So I'm not a developer, but I know stuff. But you don't want me to do something that people who spend the exact same amount of time that I spend in design, you don't want me to substitute them. So developers have been doing, since I've been doing design, these developers have been developing code. So we are not interchangeable, and we need to be working together. Okay, cool. So fight for your team. Make sure you have people working on a project that can support it end to end. Designers tend to get more designers. Developers tend to get more developers. We need to have a team that will be end to end complete and understands not just how product is designed or built, but also how it's marketed, how it's sold, and how it will solve problems for the users, but also how it will make money for the company. So you need to hire great people. And if you're in a position to hire, make sure that you hire people who can bring value. Do not hire people for time. Some people will, if you have a certain budget to hire people, it's better to hire somebody who's really great at what they do part-time for the budget that you have, than to hire somebody cheaper and full-time, because they will be much slower and cost you more in the end. Okay, so that's from me about this talk about design. I promised you a joke, so I'm just going to end with a joke that I open up my shows when I start. I'm trying to lose weight. My wife is getting me to lose weight, and it's tough. It's not easy. I feel horrible when I eat half a hamburger and throw away half in the trash. It really is bad. I feel even worse when I take it out. It's just bad. So that's it for me. And now it's part for Q&A. I hope you have some questions, and let's go. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that talk, Tom. I really like that fight for your team, the image that followed after that. And I think a lot resonated with many people. So we've got one question in the Q&A section, and it's from Lars. If there are any more questions, please add them. But in the meantime, we've got Lars' question. I asked this in the previous session too, but I'd like your take on it too, Tom. Design systems. Any tips for how to get buy-in from engineering when implementing a design system? In relation to slow progress and some refactoring when it needs to be considered. So yeah, Lars is asking, what's the best approach for design systems when you need to consider refactoring and progress and time and effort and all of those things?
Okay, great question, Lars. So we as designers, we understand what is the benefit of having a design system. The thing is, everybody who's not a designer does not think in the same way that we do. So developers will tend to see from their perspective as how can they improve something from a developer perspective. Business wants to make more money. What we need to do is show them the value of having a design system, but in their own language. So for developers, that will be, hey, are you tired of building the same component from time and time again, rebuilding the same stuff, writing the same code, and losing basically time when you can have everything nice and documented? And instead of searching through thousands of files or asking, hey, Tom, can you send me a photo of this or image of that or design of that? Instead of having everything in single place, and you will be working quicker, it will be easier for you. You're going to streamline your process. This is how you talk to developers, get them on board, and then you together come to business. And what you need to show to business is that, yes, refactoring UI at the beginning, and it will slow down the progress. So you need to find a place like a sprint 2 or 3, or when you can do it, when you can take the development time to implement design system. But you need to show them that progress will slow down at some point, but going forward, it's going to go much faster. So it's a short-term loss for a long-term gain. And you need to speak to business in terms of money they're saving and money they're making. They don't care about easier work for developers and better look and feel for designers. They want to see what is the end, what will be the end return of whatever you're doing. And if you tell them we're going to save money, we're going to be quicker, we can ship more functions, whatever you're doing, it's going to be buy-in from the stakeholders.
Thank you for that, Tom. We've got some more questions. I hope that answered your question, Lars. So the next one is from Gavin. Where's this question now? Gavin Carter. Any advice for those of us in a situation whereby, as a company, we are forever chasing the next feature, leaving a trail of destruction behind us? Therefore, the build, so features are nowhere near finished. let alone even being polished?
Yeah. Okay. Great question, Gavin. So I do not know your business and I do not know the details. This is something that I would need to take a little bit more time to look into. But if you're constantly chasing new features, I would ask you, first thing I would ask you is why? Why are you constantly chasing new features? Are the existing features not good enough? Or are they not providing value? Do you think the next feature will provide more value for your product? If your answer is yes, then why did you build that in the first place? If your answer is I don't know, then you need to test with your users. Regarding the features that you already built and are not finished or polished yet, why are you chasing the new one? So I need to know from your users what's happening, what's going on. Are you chasing new features for the feature's sake? Then you are making a grave mistake, and you are heading in a way where you're going down the path where it will be hard to reverse track and then build something out. I would rather have one feature that solves a problem than have an app on my phone that does 10 things that I don't use. So think about this, and like feel free to reach out to me later, and we can talk a little bit more. I'm more than happy to hop on a call and talk about this. But there are things that you need to think about. Why are you doing them? Why are you doing the next thing? Or why? So if you're just doing it for the sake of keeping busy and shipping something and not knowing how your users are responding, then I think there's a disconnect between users and the product. Next question.
Sorry about that. So thank you for that. That I hope that answered the question. The next question is it's a question by James. Do you have a recorded version of the NSFW talk you gave with Alex a few years ago?
I don't think so. I can check, but I don't think there's a recorded version. I can share the slide deck, but I don't think there's a recorded version. Unfortunately, I'm sorry.
Well, so let me ask a separate question. Would you and Alex ever do that talk again, even though maybe in an online forum like this, online event?
Absolutely. Alex and I are close friends. We still work together on stand-up. We speak fairly frequently. If we get an opportunity, we would do that for sure.
Okay, maybe we can consider that for the future sometime, because I think like James, it's a talk that's well remembered by many, and many in the conference right now, they went privy to see that talk. So yeah, let's chat about it in the future. We've got one more question, or two more questions before we jump into the next talk. So the one is, any tips for creating an awesome portfolio? And this is by Marlon.
Okay, Marlon. Yes, I have a lot of tips. Please feel free to reach out to me. I'll send you the links. There are amazing people out there who are creating amazing portfolios, and they're creating a lot of tutorials on how to present yourself in quick bullet points. You need to showcase your entire process, not just the polished UI. If you are a product person or a UX person, you need to convey how you came to a certain solution, not just how you designed it visually, but how you design the solution as a whole. So building case studies rather than a fancy dribble portfolio would be a better way to go if you want to find a job as a UX designer or a more holistic person.
Awesome, thank you. And then the last question is, where is it now? What is your recommended design software?
Okay, so I know there's a lot of talk about this. I am an old designer in terms of internet. I started with Photoshop and Adobe and Illustrator, but in the last 5 years I moved to Sketch. But since then, because now I'm working on both platforms, Mac and Windows. I have a MacBook as a laptop, and I use a PC and Windows as my primary working machine, especially for video. So I kind of switched back to Adobe, and now I'm using Adobe XD. And the good thing is that it can use files for Sketch. So it kind of works kind of both ways. And Adobe is platform agnostic, so I can use it everywhere. And in the last couple of years, I'm not designing that much. I'm more managing a team. So I don't have a strong preference anymore. And when I need to do something, I just quickly do it in XD.
So I think, I mean, that's the end of our questions. Tom, thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, for taking
If
your
there are any
time.
more questions, yeah, I mean, if there's any more questions, please connect with Tom. Be more than welcome
One more
to.
question by Catherine. I'll just try to answer it quickly before I go. Why there are less part-time jobs? You mentioned already in presentation, part-time workers really, yes. Catherine, it's a great question. I think the problem is that people do not understand value. And coming from the industry, a lot of people are people who are in control of money. They value people sitting in their office, sitting in a chair, working. If they see you working full time and working hard, then of course you will be better. They do not understand that design sometimes can take hours or days and sometimes can take minutes. So people do not understand the higher value of hiring somebody half-time that can provide more value than hiring somebody full-time that's actually not providing as much value because they are more junior person. That's my answer. Everybody who's watching, if you're a freelancer and you want to work, reach out to me. I always have clients searching for designers and I can recommend you. Just send me an email and I'll be more than happy to introduce you to someone. And I'm out. Thank you, everybody. You were amazing. Please feel free to reach out. Thank you for your time. And thank you, Theo and Iggy, for inviting me. I hope I'll have a chance to speak with you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.